the biggest real estate investing group in the Los Angeles area. And you can get the details there at LAREIC.com. They host a live meeting there every month on the second Thursday of the month. So we'll be upcoming in a couple weeks on December 8th. And it's at the Iman Center. We say it's Culver City, but it's really not Culver City. It's really Los Angeles area near Culver City. Great location. And we have 250 people in the room and a fantastic speaker. And then we have a vendors expo, about 50 different vendors, professionals like me, who are able to help you if you're a real estate investor starting out or professional building your business. And then we have a great speaker. That's next month's speaker. Last month's speaker, if you were there, we had a great presentation by Steve Matley of coasttocoast.com. And I grabbed him and said, Steve, can I please have you on my live stream? And he said, yes. And he told me all the things he does. I said, whoa, that's a little bit much for us. We're just a weekly live stream with some local realtors, and he's all that and a bag of chips. But he agreed to be on anyhow. Steve Matley, how you doing?
Great to see you, Bill. Glad to be here. Every day is a good day.
Every day is a good day. So I see over your shoulders and over your head there, construction equipment, which are toy sized. So
Yes.
I know it's not because you're playing with toys. Is that symbolic of what you do, and how does that relate to
Yeah.
your business?
So my background is as a construction manager. I was a general contractor and I was a professional agency construction manager for many years. I now run a construction management 2 degree programs, a bachelor's and a master's degree for an architecture college in San Diego. So that's basically what's in my office is, and so I have the little toys on top. Everything in the school is architecture. It's all, studios and drawings and models. So this is my my little display of construction stuff in my office. And then I collect squishies of all different types every time I go to a conference, because those things are light and they fly easy. So I've got all kinds of little squishies on the shelf as well.
And are squishes, is that a technical term in the land and construction business?
No, that's, the little dress things, the little foam things, because they squish easy, they fly easy, and they don't tip anything off on TSA. So
Got it. And so you are the founder operator of Coast to Coast.
yes,
And
I
so
have
just
two
to back,
partners with that.
you have 2 partners with that. And so just to back up a little bit, kind of give a broad overview of what you do. You talked about the teaching agriculture. You guys, as a company, invest in real estate. Do you take in investors to invest along with you?
Yes. We do most of our projects are syndications, and some projects we have are single investors. A large investor comes in, underwrites a project, partners with us, and we move forward. A lot of our projects, though, we syndicate, and we intentionally try to make them lower dollar entry level type things, so that just the regular investor like you and me can get involved in those things where they usually don't have access to those type of projects.
And so investors get involved with you. Are they accredited only, non-accredited? How do you manage
Depends on
that?
the project. So some projects are accredited investors only. There's usually a higher minimum on them, but we try to do some projects that we are allowed up to 35 non-accredited investors. We usually don't take that many. Most of our investors, even in those, are still accredited, but we can have a handful of non-accredited. There's a little more vetting that goes on, not just them to us, but us to them. If they're non-accredited, I need to make very sure that if anything went wrong, I'm not changing their lifestyle, right? I don't want their grocery money, their mortgage money, their kids' college fund. I don't want any of that stuff.
And so what's a minimum investment typically for somebody starting out with you guys?
The smaller projects, about 25,000 would be the minimum investment.
Okay.
Let's say maybe we're doing a $500,000 raise, so you're talking 20 positions at $25,000.
Okay. Well, that's certainly affordable for people to get started in. Now you do real estate investing. You also do land entitlement,
Yes.
where customers have land, but they want to do something with it. And then you manage the process of getting the local local agencies to approve the plans, or what's your process there?
Well, so we have very few projects that we do where we're actually acting as a consultant. In most cases, if someone has land, they'll partner that up into a partnership with us. So that's their in. So that means we raise a lot less capital because we don't need to acquire the land or doing that. So then we just need the capital to do the entitlement process. So that may only be a couple $100,000 of investor capital, but someone's putting the land in as their into the partnership. A lot of times they're silent, but a lot of times when people do that, one reason larger investors and the people with land will do things with us is specifically because they want a seat at the table to kind of pick our brains and see how we do what we do. We don't run a training program or anything like that. But people are always asking, how do I learn this? And we say, bring something to the party and you can join the party. So,
it's interesting you say that, because it seems like there's two types of people. Well, three. There's people who all they do is coach and train, develop, but they don't really know what they're doing, but because they're in that business only. From some of them, not all of them, just saying some of them. People like you who really don't coach and train, but if they work with you and pay attention, they're going to learn, I think, more than most coaching and training companies. There's a few in the middle that straddle both those lines. Very difficult to straddle both those lines, I think.
And you have some of the trainers that are training and they were active, but what they know was 30 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same in real estate, right? The people who, some of the biggest real estate coaches sold a bunch of houses 30, 20, 10 years ago. That's got nothing to do with how business is today.
This is a very different market than the early 2000s was, which is a different market than the 90s was.
Yeah. So you guys do land entitlement, and you also do development. What kind of, are you looking to develop projects? What kind of projects do you typically develop?
So the projects that we develop and keep are build to rent single family homes for seniors. We call them cottage communities. And so we're talking 1,000 to 1,200 square foot single family homes. When you drive in, when you go into it looks like everybody owns their own house. It looks like a neighborhood, everybody owns their own homes, but in fact, it's a horizontal rental community. It's apartments, right? So people, they live in the houses and they have their own four walls and they have the yard, but everything belongs to the property management company. And it's entry-level price point for seniors. We're trying to fill a niche of the seniors that don't want to live in the communal living of the multi-story senior homes where you get 350 square feet of room and then that's mitigated by all the common areas, but you have to be very social. And those buildings kind of became COVID prisons a couple of years ago. It became a problem. And then there's the other group that wants to have their own houses, but they can't afford the Del Webb lifestyle, the golf courses and swimming pools and all the stuff that goes on the clubhouses. So we're kind of in an entry level. It's a smaller home. It's not a tiny home, smaller home. We do dual master suites. The reason we do dual master suites is sometimes you have two single seniors that can share a place, and now they're paying half of entry level market rate.
Yeah.
Or you could have, say, a senior couple living there with a caregiver living together.
Right. Or one needs severe care and one really doesn't. So that's
exactly. Yeah.
That's a very interesting.
And they can have their families can stay there as a guest when they come visit.
That too. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So these are about 1,000, 1,100, and then so they own. Is that a condo where they own the inside, or is it purely
these are rentals only? So everything's owned by so think of a horizontal apartment community is what it is.
Got it. You said that.
It looks like a tract of homes,
right?
But it is in fact there's no subdivision tract map. There's not individual parcel numbers. So it's all a big commercial plat, and then the homes are laid out and they're all owned by the property manager.
So I imagine you're offering limited amenities because they must cost money to put on the amenities, or do you?
Well, it's what we call low cost, high value amenities. So instead of golf courses and swimming pools and clubhouses and all the expensive stuff, there's walking trails that we can put in because seniors need to stay active and need to move. And a lot of them have pets. So that dog parks, community gardens, ornamental and vegetable gardens. So what we do is we design these. There's 10 or 12 in what we call a neighborhood, a pod, basically a neighborhood. They're around a common green area. And each of those green areas has some type of amenity in there, whether it's a garden or a barbecue area or an outdoor game area, whatever it is, for cornhole and lawn golf and those kind of things. And then those pods are built around a larger community area with a more common area, and they could have like a little amphitheater in it or something like that. That's natural. So all of it is, again, inexpensive initial cost, very low ongoing maintenance cost, so that we can keep the prices low at the entry level, but very livable. They're also always in communities that have senior centers or gyms or movie theaters, things nearby that they can go access and do things. There's a country club down the road. If they want to join that and play golf, they can do that.
Got it. And geographically, where are your projects? I see Arizona,
Florida and Arizona primarily. So Central Florida and Greater Phoenix.
I saw you did one in Riverside. Is that a one-off, or is that?
Well, actually, we have projects in Riverside. It's not one of those. We initially designed this concept for California and Riverside County. With the difficulty we had getting R1 projects approved in Riverside County, and in Riverside County, honestly, it's a lot easier than the coastal counties. It takes less time. But honestly, California is a great place to make money out. I mean, I don't want anybody to think I'm slamming on it. I live here in California. I live in San Diego. it's a great place to make money in real estate, but you need a lot of patience, a lot of time. And I had hair when I started this. I mean, this California will run you through the ringer and create a lot of brain damage for you. It'll take you 3 or 4 years to do what you can do in 8 or 9 months in a different state. There's a big upside to it, but I can do 2 or 3 rounds of projects in the other states and make 80% as much on each project, which is better for us. So we actually designed these projects, Riverside County, and we had hassles in that area getting our R1 projects approved. We killed 3 escrows and moved those projects out of state actually. So the state lost approximately 350 affordable units for seniors because of their arduous research.
I don't know if you followed all Elon Musk's Gigafactory in Austin. Amazing engineering feat. There's all kinds of great videos describe the marvel.
I've driven by it.
But one of the things he said was it took them 18 months from signing the deal to opening the factory, which is, I think, one of the largest factories in the world, if not the largest in North America. He said, but in California, we still wouldn't have the plans approved.
No, it would like, yeah, especially in the Bay Area, you're probably talking 7 years, maybe.
Yeah.
And if you're in the coastal, anything in California coastal area, once you get coastal commission involved, you're in it for a decade, probably.
Right.
There's a large D.R. Horton project on the 15 freeway between Riverside County and populated San Diego, Fallbrook area. That project was 12 years of getting the entitlements approved. They started that in the boom of the early 2000s. They just kept working through the downturn, and it was ready to go when the market came back again.
Wow. So now, in addition to all that, so just a quick recap, as if you don't have enough on your plate. You already mentioned you lost some hair here in this business. Real estate investing, land entitlement development. You teach at an architecture school. You teach architecture at a school.
I'm the head of the construction management department. And so I oversee an on-ground bachelor's of science degree in construction management 4-year program. And I oversee a 1-year asynchronous, completely online master's degree in construction.
At what school?
New School of Architecture and Design. It's in downtown San Diego, about 450 students roughly total, 9 different programs. I'm the only non-design related program.
Got it. And then in addition to that, because that's just not really even enough, you have like TV shows that you do and radio program you do. What's all that about?
So I do. So let me tell you how that whole thing started. I was asked by a business partner of mine. You actually met her at the LA meeting, Marie Wade. She was there. She does TV and radio shows, and she asked me if I could host some shows for her. She was starting a show called Finest Women in Real Estate. And she asked if I could be one of the guest hosts. So I did that on a once-a-month basis. I would do this. It was a TV show, actually. And then she jokingly one day, I said, "Where's the show for the guys?" And she said, "Well, Finest Men in Real Estate doesn't sound right. What would you call it?" And I said, "I don't know, Real Men of Real Estate." And I was joking. A week later, she came to me and said, I trademarked the name. The show's going to start next month, and you're one of my hosts. And I said, "Are you asking or telling?" She said, "It's your idea. You got to do it." But I was just joking, right? So I ended up hosting that with her. And then what happened was I was trying to get content for my website, my company website, Coast to Coast Acquisitions. And instead of doing the cell phone on the kitchen table sort of thing, right? I figured, well, I'll just do it in the studio. So I rented the studio half a day, and I would do interview type shows, kind of like what you're doing here, but in a studio, to talk to title people, escrow people, lenders, different kind of investors, that kind of stuff. And then I had the studio for the whole half a day. So the last 2 shows, I would just bring anybody in I wanted to talk to. It was anybody I thought was interesting, right? Personal trainer, a nutritionist, whoever it was, right? So that started the show Building Solid Foundations. And it went in a hiatus during the pandemic because the studio shut down. When we came back, I went podcast style. And I still do it at the studio, but I do it in their podcast studio. I try to do as many as I can live. I have out-of-state people sometimes that call in on Zoom this way. From the studio. So I have that, but then distribution wise, I was looking for distribution outside of, I have a radio station in the NBC affiliate in the Inland Empire, KCAA, broadcast out of Loma Linda. So they cover Inland Empire, Eastern LA County, parts of Orange County, on 2 different frequencies, AM and FM. But it also goes on the podcast platforms, about 15 of them. And then I started doing on streaming. So I own a Roku channel, a Fire TV channel, Amazon, and an Android channel called the Building Solid Foundations channel. And I put my shows and I put Marie's shows and a few other shows that people are interested in. I put them up there as an informational thing. And my only rule is I don't do politics and I don't do religion on that show. There's a lot of that out there, and that's fine. I have no problem with people doing that. But I don't want that on my channels because it tends to polarize, right? You lose half your audience immediately, right? So why do it? Let's have information that we can all use on real estate, on finance, on economics, on building a small business, on health and nutrition, whatever anybody wants to talk.
Well, so you have a Roku channel and an Amazon channel
And an Android channel,
and a radio program.
And I'll have the Apple channel within a couple months here. I need to get that app put together as well.
And I just, just to give the people watching and listening kind of an idea. So if you go on his website, which is Coast to Coast, let me get the thing on here. There we go. Coasttocoast.com is the, can you guys see that? Am I sharing that?
Yeah.
So
Coast to Coast with a dash and a number 2.
There you go. Well, I can't see the address because it won't go to the address.
Okay.
But you look at his bio, and it's like, people like put stuff in there to fill it up. Somebody really edited this down because it's just all different things you've done, which is crazy. Then you hit the partial project list. Oh my goodness, look what this guy's been involved with. And I think the thing that's impressive is we're listing all the details of these projects so you really can look for what you want to talk to him about and get involved into the details of it. And I just want to say, I've been in real estate a long time, and you meet people and they tell you how great they are, and every time, I'm sure like you, Steve, you go, yeah, great. Oh, nice to meet you. And I just got right away. You were just like all that and an extra bag of chips or two on the side. And just really glad to have you here. So I'm gonna ask some questions.
Can I tell you a secret on that, Bill?
Yeah.
Both of my partners, older, wiser, and more prolific than I am in the industry.
Yeah. You're around people who are bigger than you.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they're my partners. Yes.
One of my challenges, to be quite frank, on a personal level, is the beauty of COVID from a personal level is I work out of the house. I'm near my wife. She's had some health issues. Near my grandson, which is great. Family and all that. Very convenient time-wise. I get to exercise every day. That's great. But I'm not around great people all the time. And it really is. It's why I started these phone calls or these Zoom calls partially was just to interact with people who do more than me. Because the only way to grow is to be around people who are doing much more than you. That kind of pulls you in that direction. Or if not, you're going to go in the other direction. So we don't want to do that. Hey, this is meant to be interactive. Now, we lost our live people, our streaming YouTube and Facebook for today with technical issues. If you're watching there, just put a question in the chat box and we'll get back to you. But if you're live on the Zoom call, love to have you participate. Feel free to raise your hand. Feel free to put a question in the chat box, and we will love to make this as interactive as possible. That's how we're going to learn. You're literally talking to a teacher, a professor, I guess, the proper terminology, as well as a very successful real estate investor and developer. So this is going to cover the whole world of things you might want to do in real estate. So Steve, I'm sure like me, you have this incredible resume. You're involved in very detailed, significant projects, but you also, I know, are approached regularly from brand new people say, my gosh, someday I'd like to be like you. Where do I start? So how do you recommend somebody who is interested in starting real estate, but they don't even know what they don't know yet?
So interestingly enough, there's a club in San Diego, it's a small club called San Diego Impact Real Estate Network. And I did a presentation for them at the request of the owner, 2 different meetings. And it was a 2-part thing. And it was essentially how to get started. And I just went through a list of basic stuff. So basic stuff, obviously the first step is come to clubs like the LA County Real Estate Investor Association. Yeah. Come to clubs not just once, but regularly. Because you need to build the relationships, become familiar with people. People will work with who they know, like, and trust, not just somebody who shows up once. And when you show up, put the ears on, ask questions, and listen a lot to the other people. And then you'll know what you can offer to them that maybe solve a problem or do something. So always keep the ears open, or maybe you'll talk to 3 or 4 people in a row, and all of a sudden it hits you, go, you know what? If I put these 3 or 4 people together, that's a project. Because this person had land, and this person is looking for a place to put money, and this person over here, they do a development thing over here, and then I've got a general contractor over here, right? And all of them are, so what they need to do is talk to each other, and I can round them all up, put them together, and voila, I got a project, right? So that's how you approach these things, and you're obviously you have to learn. Now, this is a great era. I came up in an era, probably as you did, Bill, where when we wanted to learn something, we went to the library, and we went to a card catalog, and we went to the shelf, and we went to librarian, and we went to newspapers, and we read, and we went through microfiche. Now we have this friend called Google. and we can find anything we want in there, and it's an embarrassment of riches. So there's really no excuse not to learn things. Now, you have to be careful. Sometimes you're learning things that aren't that accurate, so you got to check things, but always learn different things. But more importantly, through these meetings and other connection groups, networking in this business and going to expos and going to educational sessions and trainings and those type of things. And you can do that really on the cheap, honestly. Look for the people that you think you can maybe work with. And again, I don't train people. I don't have time to do that. But if someone has something to bring to the party, now you say, okay, well, I don't have $100,000 to put in your project, and I don't own 40 acres of land you can develop. Yes, but I have partners out there that what they do is they go find land for me. They're out looking for things, and they know what I'll tell them, I want this size land in this area. I want utilities. It needs to have this kind of topography and these amenities near, whatever. They'll go scout that stuff, and then they will connect me with the owners. And they will get a chunk of that, because they'll get usually 25% of the 6% commission off of that deal. Okay, which is pretty nice, right? If I'm buying a $6 million piece of land or something like that, that's nothing to sneeze at, right? I've got people that find investors for me. They go to these meetings and they meet other people with money, and they say, you know what? I know a place, somebody you can meet, and maybe that would work. And we talk, and if that works for them, then they'll get a little bit of a referral fee for introducing us to investors, because I appreciate that. And I will say this, every investor that we have, we know. We do not do blind investments. I don't go to the Marriott and book a hotel on a Saturday and try to get 1,000 people to open their wallets. We don't do that stuff. I don't go on social media and say, have I got a deal for you? I will do that at certain investor clubs, because everybody came there and paid an admission or a membership fee to come there specifically to look for real estate deals. So it's an inside the family sort of deal, right? But I still need to know every one of them. I meet every one of my investors. We have a family of investors. So if you introduce me to them and that works out, that's great. There's other ways. If you help us find a buyer for a project, if you happen to know somebody, hey, my cousin works for DR Horton, and maybe they can introduce you to the person that's their acquisition manager. If that works, there you go. There's another, there's a lot of ways to work with us. And whether you're doing our stuff or doing fix and flips or ADUs or buy and holds or land banks or whatever you're doing, if you can find people doing what you like and find a way to help them, take some burden off of them with just your own time and effort, you are, believe me, I don't know any of the people doing this that wouldn't welcome you with open arms and say, yeah, come on in, let's talk and let's see how we can work together. So sweat equity will get you a long way in this business while you're building up your financial equity.
Well, and go a step further, I would imagine not only is it welcome, but I would guess a significant portion of your business is people like that bringing you deals, bringing you
Absolutely.
people.
We rely on that.
We rely on it, and that's why you're doing this call.
That's why I'm involved in real estate investor clubs all over the place. Exactly.
You're not there asking for handout or demanding that as a ransom. It just naturally happens that you offer solutions to problems. People find the problems and bring them to you. They get solved, and you make money. It's just really.
And sometimes I introduce people to each other, and they do a deal that has nothing to do with me. Nothing to do. 2 years later, somebody will call me up and say, hey, that deal closed. I got some money. Can I invest in your project? Okay, that's fine. That worked. That worked fine. And even if they don't, it's okay. Because honestly, the pie is so big. There's something for everybody. And if you can help other people out, there's somebody that's going to help you out and not get any upside for it. So it
100%,
works.
100%. It's so funny. When I started these live streams, the most common question I got was, well, why did you do this? And I said, what do you mean? They say, well, I mean, you're teaching people how to be successful in real estate. They don't need you. They're going to do business without you. And I said, I never really thought of it that way, but some people don't need me. Okay, good luck. And some people do. I got plenty that do, so I don't really worry about those that don't. It's just not really that if you focus on that, if you focus on the people who aren't working with you, you're going to drive yourself crazy. Just focus on helping the people that you can help.
And you don't know who's coming down the line. I've had a lot of people that I've talked to, and they expressed an interest, and they didn't come in. They were a little bit, 2-3 years later, they'll contact me and say, do you still do those projects? Because I was really interested. And they just kind of, all of a sudden, they come out of the woodwork when you weren't expecting them. I have people that I don't create syndications for people, but I kind of know how to do it. So I'll talk to them and say, if you don't have money, have you considered learning how to create your own little fund with other people's money? Now, get the right attorney and get the right advice and the right CPA. Obviously, you always have to get the right expert. That's another tip for beginners. Do not ever listen to the people that say, when you're first starting out, don't worry about the attorney because you can't afford that. Don't worry about the CPA. No. You can't afford that. You can't do a project. Get the right expertise help that you trust. because none of us went to law school, accounting school, real estate. None of us went to all that stuff, right? And most of the most successful people I know didn't come out of a business or economic or finance background. They're engineers, they're architects, they're medical people, whatever. They're research scientists. I know a lot of those people that are doing just killing it in the real estate business.
Yeah.
But they surrounded themselves with the right people and created kind of a team, an informal team around them. Which a great place to start is a good real estate club. You start doing that and finding people that you can connect with and create that around you and ask people for their advice. So I have several people that actually raise funds for us. They don't have the money themselves. They go out and find people and they manage that fund, and that fund is the investor. Right. So again, sounds a little sophisticated, and it is, but I figure, I always looked at it this way, Bill. I'm not the brightest bulb. Yes, I teach at a college, but my high school guidance counselor would be shocked and appalled if we found that out. I was told by him that not college wasn't for everyone. And in honest truth, I can't blame him, because I did graduate in half of the class. That makes the top half possible. So that said, I'm doing this business really well. So I kind of feel like if I can do it, that's proof that pretty much anybody can do this.
It's funny you talk about experts. I see people settle for somebody they know so quickly. The beauty of these networks, as you said, is you go there 3, 4, 5 months in a row. You're not only seeing some of the same people, but you're seeing some of the same people who helped some of the same people. Meaning there's a natural vetting. If you're lousy at what you do, you come around for a couple of months, you got to run around, you have to go somewhere else because you've not created value for the people there. One reason why I keep coming around to the same meeting is I have nothing to hide. I'm not running from anybody. I'm getting value. They're getting value. It works for everybody. So it seems like one place to get experts would be those who are actually in the practice that you're talking about, not your friend who's the attorney who could do the paperwork for you. That seems to be a common mistake that people make regularly.
Well, is your friend an expert in small, real estate investing type law? Because right. Remember, law has a lot of specialties.
Right.
And if they're injury attorney, that's not their expertise. If they're family law, that's not their expertise. I will tell you this: the person that's going to speak at your next meeting there in LA, Bill Tam, there's a guy that proves that if you go to enough clubs and hang around long enough, you will end up with a contact base that is just immense. He has top level contacts in this industry across the country.
Right. But I think also to him, it speaks to he's been doing, I think, kind of the same thing for a long period of time. There's a certain inertia and compounding of interest, of effort. So many people try different things. They give up, they try, they give up, and they understand that if you just, success is like that next 90 days down the road. And then if you stay at it over time, it gets a lot easier because you've been around long enough. People right away say, oh, do you know so-and-so? Oh yeah, we did a deal 5 years together. It eliminates all of the trust issues, right?
Yeah, and if you hang around this business long enough, you'll find out that while there's literally tens of thousands of people doing this, it's kind of a small fraternity. It's not 6 degrees of separation. It's maybe 2, 3. I mean, I don't know how many times I talk to people that I never met before. Right. And then in the conversation, there's at least 3 or 4 common people we both know.
Oh, if they're doing business regularly. Now, if I don't know who they are, they're probably not in my world. Not to say they can't be good, but there's some, usually like my alarm goes off. Do you know so-and-so? My particular niche is probate. Well, so-and-so, they're a probate expert. Really? I literally track every single sale in Los Angeles County. I've never heard of them, but I guess it's possible. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I certainly know my ground. What do you see? I'm sure along the way you've met people who started out and then came back to you a period of time later with some fantastic success. What do you see as a common trait of people who jump in this business and just take off and do real well with it?
So there's 2 things. We mentioned that you want to get in and get a little prepared and do a little study and meet people. The biggest mistake that beginners make is perpetually believing they're not ready. And so 5 years goes by, 10 years go by, 15 years go by. They've gone to every training, they've read every book, they go to the meetings, and they've never put their toe into the pool. At some point, you got to pull a trigger and do something. And what you want to do is find a project that excites you, that you like, something that you understand and you can relate to, something that fits the available money or time or expertise or whatever you're bringing to the party, and something that you can learn from, and then try it out. And you want to make it as probably as low risk as you possibly can, understanding real estate investing is in fact a risky business, and if it was not, there'd be no upside. Period. Right? If you want no risk investing, you go to the bank and you buy a CD. You'll make no money. right? It's guaranteed, by the federal government. You're not going to lose money on it. But if you want to make money, then you've got to be willing to have a little bit of risk tolerance, and you want to work with what's for you. Vet everybody, vet the project, vet the managers, understand it, and put the amount of money in that you can afford to lose if everything went down the tubes and all that kind of stuff. Just start by doing something. I know people that started by taking their old 401k from the employer that laid them off 5 years ago, converting it to a self-directed IRA, and then loaning it to a friend who was doing a fix and flip at 12% interest, and putting a lien on the house while it was being done. They became the bank. All they had to do was put the money out there, write the contract, and go file the lien, and then get the check and relieve that when they're done. And so that's their first step into the foray. We have a lot of our investors, their first step is they come into our projects because they don't have to know anything. If they trust us, we have the expertise, and they can put money in as a first step for them that's easy for them. And they start getting to understand what the world is like in this, and it's an easy first step. If they're comfortable with the type of projects we do. Not everybody is. It's getting that first step is out there. The most important thing is you have to go do something. Right. Put it to work and test it. If you are the type of person that wants to do everything by yourself, and I run into those people too, that's not a good plan for your first project.
Not in real estate.
Yeah, I know a lot of people get in real estate say, well, I bet I can be self-made and do my own. I'm independent. I do everything I want. Right. That's great if you have all the knowledge in the universe, but you don't, right? So I tell people this is a team sport. Even if you're a solopreneur in this, you're still a team sport. You need to rely on other people for the money, for the legal help, for the accounting help, for the real estate, whatever, the construction, whatever. If you want to do something completely by yourself, you have to take up pottery or something like that. But in this business, you have to work with people. Okay.
There are people who I think attempt to do everything themselves. They do real estate, they do mortgage brokering, they do the notary because they want to make that money. They do this, and at some point, I'd say, "Are you good at any of them? Are you great at any of them?" Because the way you make any
why do you want 10 full-time jobs?
I don't
get it.
I don't.
So, real estate agents do this all the time. They'll get they get the license, and then they want to do every little step of it. Right? I'm going to do this myself. Correct. Buy, design, develop, manage. So what I'll do, and I did consulting for many years. I did consulting for a lot of them for real estate agents and entrepreneurs. And I would draw an organization chart with all the regular stuff a company has: marketing, accounting, finance, sales, right? Everything, right? And then I'd put their name in every single box. I say, if you ever feel tired and overwhelmed, this is why. Right. You're not self-employed. What you did was you bought yourself about 24 full-time jobs. Correct. So, and I would tell them, I say, you circle which box you want to get rid of first. Go find someone to do that. Right. Invariably, it was the finance and accounting box. I'd say, great. You can find a bookkeeper.
100%.
Find a bookkeeper who's got QuickBooks and let them handle all this garbage for you. Just check 100%. On it every once in a while, and then get a good CPA once a year to do your taxes.
100%.
Yeah. Get that off your plate.
And follow their instructions. Like when they said, just use this account and use this one credit card, fine. Just use that at the end of the year. It's all record kept, is all done off my books. So I don't have to deal with it.
If you're overwhelmed with social media, find a VA somewhere that's going to do, 3 or 4 postings a week on 3 different platforms.
Correct. 100%. Yeah, no, I had that same work chart, but I've figured out how to get rid of almost everybody. And I'll tell people, clients, or I work with attorneys a lot, well, I'll take care of that for you. I'm taking care of it for them. I'm not doing it. You send me the email, I forward it to my VA and tell what to do with it all. I don't do any of it, but it's going to get done. And that's what the customer cares about. They don't need me to download the data or whatever. It has to get done.
Yeah. Yeah. So for the investors here, when I do presentations, and you probably may remember this, Bill, when I was at LA, I asked the people, who here is a real estate investor? And their hands go up. And I was like, wrong. You are a real estate investing business. Ooh. You may be on your own, but you're not a real estate investor. You are a real estate investing business. Form the entity, act like a business, put the organization together, create your vision, whatever you got to do, make it a business and act like it. And that means businesses have subcontractors and subconsultants to do work for.
I know for me, my business, my real estate business is active, doing very, very well. I'm really happy with it. I make more than I need to live on. I take the excess and invest that. My real estate business is finding people to do all the rest of that.
That's right.
I vet them. I have to interview them, meet them, understand what they're doing, check the numbers out, and then let them do the hard work, which is, the property and the development and all that stuff. I know people want to do that, and if you enjoy it, good luck. But it's just too much brain power for me on top of what else I'm doing every day.
So interesting. You started the show by kind of going down my list of what I do and how busy I am and how do you fit this in. But here's the funny thing. In our business, Coast to Coast Equity, as I told you, 3 partners. The 3 of us together add up to 1 full-time employee. And the reason is we don't do the work. We're orchestra leaders. We don't play the instruments. We don't write the music. We don't set up the concert hall. We show up and just get everybody to play together. They're all the experts. They know how to play their instrument. They know how to read the music. They know how to compose it. Our job is to get everybody to play together. And if they do so, it's beautiful. And if they don't, it's a mess. And that's what we do. At the school, I teach some classes, but mostly I just coordinate it. I just get other people to teach the stuff and they develop curriculum. And I'm just overseeing the thing. In the show, my show I show up and interview people. I give a list. I have a producer. The producer books the talent, the guest. The producer books the studio. The producer gets the AV guy and the videographer out there. The producer oversees the editing of all the videos, the uploading onto the streaming platforms. I show up and do this. I just show up and talk. That's how I can do it. And I've learned you delegate things out to other people who are better at it than I am.
Right. Yeah, no, and I try to teach agents where to start on that. My wife unfortunately had some surgery last year, and she was having me drive her to doctor's appointments. And at one point I said to her, "Okay, now, honey, why are you asking me to drive today? If you need me to emotionally, I'm your husband. Fine. Then if you need me, I have to do it. Are you worried about security? We live in Los Angeles, so if you don't feel safe, then my job is to take care of you. Okay, I'll take you. But if you just need a ride from here to there." That's what Uber's for. I make a lot more per hour than Uber. So if you don't need me and you don't need me to take care of you, and you're on your own. So, we pick and choose where it makes sense, but I'm not an Uber driver for sure. Or else I have to live on an Uber driver's pay rate. I can't afford to do that given my lifestyle.
Right. And you get the frustration of the Uber driver trying to drive through LA. Because that'll take years off your life if you do that every day.
I'll tell you a cute story on that too, because this is my show. I should be interviewing you, but I go to the Lyric event about 10 minutes from my house. I run a podcast right before that, and I give myself as a luxury, I take an Uber to go to that event. So I'm sitting in the car talking to the driver. "What do you do?" And he says, "Well, I'm a real estate agent full time." He says to me, "Really? You're taking me to one of the best events all month. It's free. Why don't you park your car and go in?" He goes, "Well, no, I'm going to another event tomorrow." "Really? What's the event?" Blah, blah, blah. He's paying a couple $100. It's by the airport. He's got to pay for parking. He's got to drive there. I said, "Think about it for a second. I make a lot more than you do. I'm going to this event and it's free and you're here." But in our mind, sometimes we have a plan that we have to work that just doesn't get us to where we want to go. So
there's control issues there too. Some people don't want to let go because nobody will do it as good as me. That's probably true. And in most companies, the CEO would probably do a better job cleaning the bathrooms than the custodian, because they care more about the company, they're more invested in it. But they should never do that, because the custodian will do it at one price and the CEO needs to do what the CEO can do.
Right.
That's what they're paid to do. So just because you may be better at it doesn't mean you're the right person to do it.
Interesting. Look, again, I could talk to Steve all day long, but this is supposed to be interactive. So if you guys have questions, feel free to raise your hand in the Zoom chat or put a question in the chat box.
Yeah, there's only one question I see in the chat. It says, "Can you hear me?" But I don't know if that's one they want addressed.
That was a while ago. That was Jack.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, that was early on. That was like the first.
Yeah, throw things at me. If I don't know, then I'll either dance around it or make something up. Either way.
Let's play Stump Steve. If we can come up with something to stump him, that'd be great. I'm so engrossed in our conversation, I'm not even paying attention to the attendance. So I appreciate having you guys on today. So where do you see the market now versus 6 months ago? Where do you see it in the next 90 days? What are you doing different, if anything, in your business for next year?
Well, we've made shifts. We kind of saw what was coming. And again, this is where having partners that have been around the block more times than I have comes really handy. For example, back in 2005, in January of 2005, I had a discussion with these same people, and we decided no more new projects. We're going to spend this year and a half finishing everything and closing it out. So we were ahead of the curve. We closed our last project November of 2006. So we were ahead of that curve, and things started dying in the inland in 2006. It really didn't hit the coast till about 2008. So this round we talked, and we've shifted. We've gone from where we were doing a lot of R1 single family home, because that was kind of the golden unicorn of real estate for the last 5 years or so. That was the shortage, right? And we were selling to KB Home and Lennar and DR Horton and those kind of companies for tracks. Now I've got like projects I'm doing now. I've got the one in Sholo, Arizona. That one we picked up the land, and the original plan was to do lots. And after I went up there with my partner, we changed the plan. I said, I don't see this happening right now. And what we learned was that there's a huge seasonal RV business up there. People from the lowlands of Arizona go up to the mountains to get out of the heat in the summer. And I don't blame them because it's 125 degrees down there on the valley floor. They could go to Orange County or Santa Monica or San Diego for about 2 weeks for the price that they can stay all the way through the whole summer up in Sholo, right? They get, and if they have a coach, they just, pull it up. A lot of them buy their own spot and then just pull it up there and stay, 4 or 5 months there and then go back down to home in Scottsdale or wherever they came from. So we thought that was a good plan. We hired someone to do a market study, and that was supported. So I'm doing a project up there. It's going to be 4 to 5 different projects that we're parceling out to different developers doing those kind of projects. There's a mixed commercial and which we call transient residential, but there's also a renter thing that can go on there too. And I've already got developers out of Florida. They're coming in to build that. We're doing the cottage communities. That was a shift that came in a few years back, looking ahead. And that was understanding that, flips are really great when the market's expanding. But when the market starts to turn down, you want the holds. And then you have to say, okay, so what's the market that's going to be recession proof? And we kind of analyzed a lot of that. We also looked at when all our friends and neighbors went to the polls a couple of years ago and basically took all the landlords' rights away, right? So the squatters' rights are now what's going on in California. Again, there's all kinds of arguments for that, plus, minus, the humanitarian arguments and all the stuff. But as a landlord, it's really a problem.
Right.
So we figured, well, seniors mitigate 90% of your problems because you don't evict them. Nobody throws grandma out in the street, right? If they're not paying their rent, there's a dozen public agencies and charity organizations that'll step up and help out. Or if they can't remember to pay the rent, the family moves them off to assisted living somewhere or something like that. So you really don't have the issue. You don't have the renter problems of the cars parked on the lawn and the parties till 3 a.m. and the loud music and you don't have those kind of problems.
8, 9 people in the units.
Yeah, and most seniors, when they move into a independent living situation like that, their plan is not to move again until they have to. Either they pass away or they have to go to assisted living somewhere. Their plan, they don't want to be transient anymore. They want to live in a community. And they also, we looked at the what had come out of the COVID and all these poor people that got stuck in those buildings and their families couldn't visit. And we thought there's got to be a better way, more humane way to provide for seniors. And without that, buy the $800,000 home on the golf course with Del Webb and then pay dues on top of that. So that was where all this kind of came from. Again, it's not entirely altruistic. Obviously, we're looking to make money at it, but if you can also solve problems, fill a need, and we look at it as a really humanitarian way to solve some of the senior housing for a group of people, a generation that has a large percentage that aren't prepared for retirement.
So it also sounds like so it sounds like not only are you looking for a particular niche, but it sounds like you moved down market price wise from mid market point to lower income point. Because that's a little more recession proof that you're gonna have people moving down from mid market to that area.
And a lot of seniors, their retirement value of their retirement accounts dwindled quite a bit lately. So when you talk about, are we looking at what's going on and what shifts? Yes, we analyze that. We look at when the election changes over, there's a different party in power. And it's not a matter of we like these guys, we hate these guys. It's a matter of we'll play any game if we understand the rules. So it's understanding no matter who's doing what on a national level, a state level, a county level, a city level, what are the rules for the game right now and how can we take advantage of those rules and make the project fit those rules? We have fully understand, we don't control those rules.
Right.
We have the only control we have is like anybody else. We get our 1 vote per person and that's it, right? That's it. So you work within it and you don't cry about it, whine about it, complain about it, whatever. And it's not, it's not going to last forever. You just shift and we shift what we're going to do. The process stays the same, buying the land and doing the mapping and selling it to someone else. The end product's going to be different. And it's going to very much depend upon market studies. We go up there and we kind of get a lot of information up front, but that's anecdotal evidence. And, we don't do that. If you build it, they will come up. You get the market study to back you up or tell you you're crazy. If the market study says something that I want to do and it's not true, well, that's too bad for me because no matter how emotionally attached I was to it, it doesn't matter. If it doesn't pencil, it doesn't pencil and I drop it. We go on to something else.
I think what I'm hearing from you also, and I've seen is, and I think it's the same for me. I'm doing business next year It's just, what are the rules? They've changed. Great. I'll play the new rules and and win there. When I see people say, well, I'm backing up, I'm pulling back a little bit because what are you going to do? You're going to pull back and just work in your 9 to 5 job. Guess what? A lot of those 9 to 5 jobs are under a lot of pressure too. And it's not like you really have a security. Maybe if you work for the government, you have security. But other than that, you probably.
And your merit increase will be a small percentage of inflation. So you're going to go backwards on it. It's just what it is. And most people getting into this business, the reason they're doing it is they're not completely happy or satisfied in their 9 to 5, or they wouldn't be doing it.
Well, even if you can afford it, most of them feel like they sold their soul for that 9 to 5, and at some point they want to get it back. And sometimes they have to wait till they can retire, and other people just say, "I've had enough." And that was me. I just had enough of it, and I don't want to do that. Spend my life on that. So I'd rather get into real estate and make something special for myself. Okay, so last call for questions, comments. Look, you have an expert here.
Very quiet group today. I'm either put them all to sleep or I've completely befuddled them. I'm not sure.
Well, these guys, I'm looking at them, are befuddleable. I know some personally. Abraham, a good friend of mine, is definitely befuddleable. We both befuddle each other on a regular basis. Any questions, comments before we wrap up here with Steve? Really, I'm really fortunate to have him here today. Abraham, you have a question there?
So I don't have a well-formed question, but what you're looking at doing is intriguing to me. I'm not sure how I can go after it.
Well, so you were you at the meeting, this last month's meeting when I spoke? Okay. So one at the LA County REI at
I wasn't able
center. Okay. So that's kind of the point of what I was presenting there was, one, what we do, but also how people can do a little of this on their own if they want to get started. And obviously, the caveat is, do your homework, get the right consultants and experts around you first. Don't run into anything half-baked. But a small scale version of what we do is finding that lot, and they're available. I even showed a map when I was speaking of one of the busiest intersections in Orange County, just a Google shot of the aerial, and that we kind of like 5 different empty lots that were right there in that area. So in the city, there's still empty land here and there. But if you can find that piece of property and you look at it and it's got 1 house on it, but the zoning says you could have maybe 3. And with SB 8, 9, and 10 now, 10 is the subdividing one, with the ADUs and stuff, there's a lot more possibility than there used to be. But you can find that, and on a small scale, that you can take that lot and break it into the 3 per the zoning that allows you to do it, assuming, based on the floor area ratio and everything. And then you can either sell those 2 other parcels off that pays for the first one, or you can put dwelling units on there, maybe a dwelling unit and an ADU on each one of those, if the law allows you to do that, if you're half a mile from a transit area, which everything in LA is. I don't know any place in LA that wouldn't be half a mile from at least a bus stop. So that pretty much opens it wide open. And you would then have you go from the 1 house to potentially 6 different rental units on that property, and 3 separate parcels that you had the ability, you could finance each one of those separately if you wanted to. Refinance them individually if you want to later on. You could sell one off if you want to later on. So that's a small scale of what we do. We do that just with larger land and do 200 to 300 at a time, but you can do 1 or 2 at a time. So that's a small version of what we do. And you go through, you have to file the papers. You'll go through the approval process. There's a public approval process. You go to planning commission and they'll check things off, unless it's under a certain, I think if it's under a certain amount of lots, then you don't even have to go to planning. It's discretionary.
Avram and I we belong to a synagogue. We walk right by a building that used to have a small house on it, and it's under construction now. They're building 4 units on what was a small house, not a large lot, below normal size. So what's happened is this change in laws, like them or not, agree with them or not, that's the politics. But from a business point of view, it's created wealth opportunities right in front of us. And this is when we walk by all the time.
That's one of those rules that changed. And so what you do is you say, with the rule change, what can I do to make money based on the new rules? In football a few years ago, they changed the rule on tackling that if you lead with your helmet, you get ejected from the game. So it changes the way does that mean you don't tackle, you don't play the game anymore? No, it means you learn to lead with the shoulder, keep your head out of the way, and you learn a better, safer way of tackling, and you still play the game, and you find a way to exploit that in a way that the offenses aren't expecting, because they were expecting the old way, right? So Same thing in this. You look at
Mhm.
SB 8, 9, and 10 and anything else that's out there, you look at the zoning and the general plan of where you are, and you figure out, what could I do? What's the highest and best use? What can I make happen here? And you know, the nice thing about subdividing a lot, it's just a drawing. You don't need tools, equipment,
Yeah.
materials. You don't need anything for that. You just
You don't even
go
need to do
and
the
you just fill it
drawing. You
out.
find somebody like you who knows how to do it and bring it to them, and they're going to do the drawing for you. I mean, you don't have to do the whole
Oh
project,
yeah,
like you said. Just you
yeah.
found the
A civil
property.
engineer can draw
Right,
that up
right,
for you.
right.
Yeah.
How did you research how to figure out what those housing needs would be for
Okay,
a
so
small group of people like that?
well, so
I'm
again,
almost
everything
a
is
senior myself. I need to get it done before I become one.
yes.
It's actually too
Okay.
late for
So
that.
let me tell you how I learned this. I came out of the construction side of the world. Okay, I was construction management. I worked for a construction management firm, and some of the clients we had made us, who we were doing turnkey. You start with the land acquisition and work all the way through the whole thing,
Mhm.
and you have to do some entitlements. First entitlement project I did was 20 something years ago on a synagogue in San Diego County. It's the largest synagogue in San Diego County, the oldest congregation Beth Israel. They're in La Jolla area, a reform group. We took a piece of land the Irvine Company owned next to one of their office buildings. This is during a downturn in the 90s, right? We were kind of downturn in the mid 90s. And I think Irvine Company is kicking themselves they ever let that happen, right across from the mall. And we had to do in that case, instead of dividing it, we were consolidating it. The opposite. We consolidated it into one parcel and got the approvals and went through that in order for them to build this. I don't know if you know that religious facilities, houses of worship, there's no zoning for them. Same with schools. You have to go through a conditional use permit because those type of large gathering places are disruptive to neighborhoods, right? They're quiet most of the time, but everybody shows up for the wedding. Everybody shows up for the Sabbath. Everybody shows up for the funeral, right? And it overwhelms everything. And so if you're living there as a neighbor, you hate those things. And they have events going on, right? So it's an assembly hall, right?
Yeah.
So, right. So because of that, that's why it has to be neighborhood approval on these things. But then my partner who lives in Florida, he's my VP. I had known him for over a decade. We had met when I was in Palm Desert. He was a developer. I was a builder out there. And we were in a small businessman group. Again, you show up to the right group and meet people and collaborate. So he called me up one day and we were talking about what he was doing, what I was doing, and found out we were kind of doing the same thing in the same area. He had land in escrow. I had investors looking for land, and he was struggling trying to find the money, and I was struggling trying to get the land. We're like, well, we just work together. So then his expertise melded with my expertise, right? And that's how we got going in partnership. And then our third partner was our commercial real estate guy at the time. He's now our third partner in the business. And those two had known each other when I was still in school. They known each other since the 70s. So that's how I learned the business. I got in the trenches with people I knew and trusted, and I had something to bring to the party. They had something to bring to the party, and we worked together. And I taught them the side I knew from the construction side. They taught me the side they knew from the entitlement side. And we're still working together, 25 years later, we're still doing all this stuff.
Wow.
Okay, so that's how all this came about. If you want to learn to do a small lot on your own, again, Google and YouTube have so much information on there that you can find basic. Now, understand it's different by jurisdiction. So if you watch the YouTube video and the person's in Omaha, Nebraska, the basics are there, but the specifics are going to be different.
Right.
Okay. California has the most arduous laws. However, SB 8, 9, and 10 that were passed last year took a lot of that away if you're doing ADUs density housing. That was designed by a state government that doesn't like development on undeveloped land. They want to see already developed land become more dense and more use of mass transit and less use of automobiles and more people where they've already destroyed the natural order of things, right? That's kind of what their view is.
Yeah.
All the natural habitat's gone and the trees and the bushes are gone now. So you've already made it the human habitat, just keep building in there.
Might as well.
So the rules are even easier. So there again, where do you find people that can do this in your neck of the woods? You're going to go to club meetings like this group, like the LA County REIA, and there's other groups around the area too, and talk to people and meet with people and find the experts, find the other investors, find the people that understand what's going on. There's a lot of people doing ADUs that are doing exactly that right now. They're buying the place, they're subdividing lots into 2 or 3, splits, whatever the zoning allows, and then building multiple units on it. So then you have to ask yourself, What can I bring to their party? What do I have? Can I be the person that's going out bird dogging to find the land and make the phone calls and knock on doors and and then if I do that and I bring it to them, they'll let me into the party and they'll give me some back end participation on that whole deal, right? Or give me a little bit of money up front and some back end participation. I always try to do that. Try to get in and say, okay, I'd like a little bit up front, for the effort, maybe a commission off this, and then I'd like to have a piece of the back end if I'm allowed to do that in perpetuity, right? Yeah, a percent. Right. If you have a percent of 20 different projects, you've got 20% of a decent portfolio, right?
It's fascinating. When I talk to developers, I always ask them where they find their deals, and still 80% say their primary business is in the MLS. Here in LA. It might be different in other states, in other areas, but in Los Angeles, every investor I talk to. And so as a real estate agent, there's no magic. It's just somebody has gone through that data a little more carefully than I have and found the diamond in the rough there and brought it to the investor that they bought it. And it really just, in many cases, as simple as that.
Yeah, there's a gentleman in the North San Diego real estate group. He's been doing very well at the old fashioned, 10, 12 years ago, fix and flip deal, right? The HGTV stuff that they, oh, that's old, that's not working anymore. He gets every one of his things off the MLS, but you know what he does? He finds the rare listing in there that everybody else missed or didn't bother talking to the seller to see if there was another way around this. He finds the one that fell out of escrow.
Right.
He finds the one with a very motivated seller. Right. He finds the one that's got enough hair on it that scares other people away, and he can take care of that title issue or something. So there's that. We do most of our stuff that we buy is not listed because when you're buying land, listed land tends to be more expensive and harder to work with, and they want shorter. We want terms. And if somebody's listed it, that means they want to get rid of it.
Right.
So we want longer, terms to acquire it. But we have people that are what we call them bird dogs, and we have them in Texas, Florida, Phoenix area, northern Arizona. Got them here in Southern California, although we're not doing that many projects here anymore just because they're so arduous.
You think you're a real man because you managed to cook a steak. That is a cop-out. That is the only.
Somebody's playing a YouTube video in the background.
Yeah. Okay, we got that.
Show, welcome to the Tate Speech Emergency Meeting Episode 7. I'm going to start by asking you where the.
Okay, I got that blocked off. Sorry about that.
Okay, yeah, somebody's playing an Andrew Tate video.
Yeah, they can't do it anymore.
Yeah, there's probably copyright issues on that.
Like they're just trying to be bothersome.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Last.
Okay, so I don't know if that answered your question or not, but
it helped.
Thanks.
Okay. Yep. Come to the meetings regularly and get to know people and find the people that are going to be your future partner.
Yes.
And when you talk to people, always talk to people as if they would be your future partner.
Yeah. Thanks. That's great advice. Hey, a real quick question I'd love to get before you finish up, which is, what's the average rental cost for a typical unit in those senior developments when they're thousands?
It depends where they are. We go market rate, and they've actually gone up quite a bit. Like say in Marion County, Florida, we initially had those at about $2,100 a month, and now we're looking at closer to $3,200 a month, and it's in about a year. It's gone up that much.
Wow.
Phoenix area is running closer to $35 a month.
Wow.
That's entry level for a place. Now, if we can, we'll try to actually keep that lower. Obviously, we have to make a profit on it, but we will try to undercut the market slightly if we can to get them in. And remember, in those states, they don't have these artificial restrictions on raising rents when you need to cover costs and those kind of things like California does. Although I have to say the rental control that California did actually guaranteed rents would raise faster than they have been. It almost forced the landlords to do it.
So these places are still not cheap. $2,100 is not cheap for 1,100 square foot. But
remember, dual master suite, they can split it.
Right.
Yeah, and so if they go into one of those senior areas, I just passed one. There's one a couple blocks down from where I live. Those are running. It was $3,600 a month, and this is for a basically 350 square foot unit in one of these buildings. Okay, $6,300 if it's assisted.
Wow.
Per month.
Well, okay.
For a small room.
Right. Right.
So again, we look at the market rate, and that's how we kind of bank it. But if we can make it pencil at a little under market, we will do that.
Well,
it fills it up faster.
I'm gonna take a look at your deals. Look, Steve, we got a little long here. I really appreciate your patience on getting us started here. A little technical issue. Thank you so much for being on, sharing with us today. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you to learn more about you, I have your website. I put it on the.
And it's under my name here too. My email address is under my name, next to my name here.
There you go. So S Matley at coast-2coast.com. We'll put it in the description as well. And obviously he's in the San Diego area, comes up to speak here in LA once in a while, not to be missed, was the LARIC speaker last month in November. So you can check that episode as well if you want to find out more. Steve, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate your help and your support today.
Thank you, Bill. I really enjoy talking with you. Every time I talk to you, I feel like I learn a lot too. I enjoy talking to people that have been around the block a few times. I know things.
Thanks. It's like that's why I'm saying I'm old. Got it. Thank you so much.
So
hey, hey, everybody, thank you so much for being on the call today. We do this every Tuesday at 3 p.m. If you want more details in the program, LAREIC.com is the website, LAREIC.com. And we meet every Thursday, every second Thursday of the month. So it's going to be Thursday, December 8th at 6:30 p.m. We'll have Bill Tan as a featured speaker. He's fantastic. He's almost as good as Steve was last month. And he's going to talk about how to structure deals. There'll be about 250 people there, but great opportunity to network. Just like Steve said, great opportunity to learn and meet people and work and find the people that you want to work with in your business. So if I can help you, I'm Bill Gross, Bill at the LAProbateExpert.com. I'm on social media at Bill Gross EXP. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you. And